It's the month of October, and that usually means spooky or horror-themed videos. So I figured, why not go big, go with a horror-themed action figure line, and that is, of course, the Mcfarlane Toys DC Multiverse 7-inch Blackest Night figures. I'm going to be doing a set of 4 standard figure reviews, which is what you can see on my table here, and a 5th review, which will be the Collect and Connect version of Atrocitus. We're going to be 1 video per character. We're going to do a full breakdown review of each of these characters, starting with Blackest Night Batman, going to Deathstorm, then to Green Lantern Kyle Rayner, and finishing up the standard figures with Blackest Night Superman. And then we're going to do the special Collect and Connect version of Atrocitus. I hope you enjoy the video to come. Stay tuned, guys, if you dare. YouTube, Rook here from Rook Geek Goodness, my little channel web for all things geeky and cool, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back to our horror-themed action figure review, and in this video we're taking a look at the character known as Deathstorm. This is figure number 2 of the DC Multiverse Blackest Night figures done by Mcfarlane Toys, and you need a little context to understand what this character is all about before I even get started with the video review. First thing, this character debuted in 2009-2010 in a series called Blackest Night, which is where this figure debuts from. Great series. If you've never read it before, I highly recommend reading it. If you like stories based on like Night of the Living Dead, done in a horror themed for comics where both heroes and villains rise from the grave, awesome story. This is of course done by Jeff Johns and Ivan Reis. This is what it looks like. It was a 7-issue maxi series. It handled throughout all of DC Comics in 2009-2010. If there was any major stories or major characters that were done during that time frame, it usually touched something to do with Blackest Night. And this is kind of what it looked like for artwork. I'll just show you a sample of what some of the artwork looked like. And this is the character Deathstorm. You can see this panel work over here. This is what he looks like in the comic. So great rendition, what they did from the comic series done in action figure form. Love everything they did with this figure. There's some good points and bad points. We really have to touch base about that now, and we're going to dig even more about Deathstorm. So my eagle-eyed viewers out there might be saying to yourself, Rook, this guy looks sort of similar to Firestorm, and you are 100% correct. This is in fact the resurrected version of Firestorm, aka Ronnie Raymond. In prior issues of Firestorm comics leading up to Blackest Night, Ronnie Raymond blew up like a bomb. The Firestorm Matrix went critical and he exploded, killing Ronnie Raymond, and he was resurrected by a C-tier Green Lantern villain known as Black Hand. This guy right here kind of kick-started the whole Blackest Night event off. This is just a pop version of Black Hand. Unfortunately, of an action figure version of him, and he was basically trying to raise a galactic level threat both in space and on Earth to destroy all life. That was his goal. He wanted to kill everybody, and that was the idea of the character known as Black Hand. So basically Ronnie Raymond here is Deathstorm. So with all that background information out of the way, let's really focus on the paint and articulation of Deathstorm here. First we focus on that awesome head sculpt. Great looking head sculpt. I'll get some up close B-roll shots of it so you can see what it really looks like up close and personal. To me, it feels like they took Firestorm's head and kind of merged it with Ghost Rider to spit out this monstrosity. That's what it looks like to me, but all things considered, it looks great up close and personal. When you have it in hand, it looks amazing. The rest of the suit here is basically all black with some silver panel lines. You have that pyramid on the crotch area above the kind of above the waist, and you have the leggings like we saw for Blackest Night Batman as well. It will have the same problem Blackest Night Batman had. When you kind of move the legs around, these panel lines will get lost, unfortunately. He does have the cool Firestorm kind of effect to him. Firestorm has this very sort of symbol here. It's the Firestorm Matrix done in a different color, but this is the Black Lantern version here. This is basically the Black Lantern symbol kind of spreading out across his shoulders. And what they did for Mcfarlane Toys, if you don't know, I'll put an image up on the screen right now. Basically Mcfarlane took that exact image and built this figure. And mind you, it's a good figure, but it's not a great figure, mainly because of that image, in my personal opinion. They could have picked any number of Deathstorm images to use, but they used that image and lifted that image to create this figure. And there's a negative with that image, because if you look at the bodysuit itself, the color of the suit, you'll see a lot of styling here. You see a lot of deco, and you see a lot of sculpt through the entire figure, especially the shoulder pads. It's missing something to me. This thing is definitely missing a bit more color. If you had some dry wash over here where they did some sculpting, I think it would give it a lot more pop. I think it's absolutely missing that. They lifted that image and they built this figure. They could have, again, picked any number of comic images to use, and I found a lot of good ones online, but they took that image and built this figure, and to me that is absolutely a shortcoming. Now let's really focus on that articulation. So going to the head sculpt here, head will spin 360 with really no hindrance. You got some up and down movement. The arms will go out to a full T. and there are kind of rubber shoulder pads here, so you're not going to have any hindrance. They will spin 360. They will swivel, just like the Blackest Night Batman figure that we did the very first figure review for. He does have a double jointed elbow. You can see the pins right there. His hand is a little bit different compared to Blackest Night Batman's hand. You will spin here, but he has this weird hinge on his wrist here. His wrist will pivot like up and like this way. His hand will pivot this way. And instead of like spinning like back and forth, it doesn't do that. This hand is more of a clawed hand, and you can really see it here. I'll kind of spin the hand around so you can see the pin right there. So the hand, when you articulate the hand, it's up and down here and 360. You can't bend the wrist this way. You have to pivot it like this. It's on a weird hinge. Way different than the Blackest Night Batman figure. I want to point that out. Let's look at the chest here. Again, he has the cool Black Lantern symbol here. He will spin 360 just like the Black Lantern Batman did. As far as a waist crunch, you can get him pretty far forward. You can get him pretty far back. So it has a good range of motion, even further back than I really was giving light to there. So he can go back a real far way. I'll even hold him on the stand so you can see how far back he can go. And again, forward pretty well as well. If we go to the legs, I'll take them off the figure stand. Let's focus on those legs now. Again, you have that pyramid here right above the crotch area. You can give him a pretty decent kick. Good range of motion there. The leg will spin 360 all the way around, as long as you don't spin it off the ball joint here. But again, you're going to run the same problem that the Blackest Night version had for Batman, is when you start moving these legs around, you're going to lose the articulation, you're going to lose how the costume lines up. When you start bending these legs into different positions, how you had that really cool pose starting out here, you're going to lose that when you start moving these legs around. It's not going to look the same as you see there. You see how it breaks up the paint. So it's not as bad as Batman's, but it's still there because how this costume is designed. Let's focus now on the knees. Knees, you do have a nice double jointed knee. You can get the leg really, really far back. I didn't really showcase that there. There you go. So here's the double jointed knee. I'll get that way so you can see it. So you see the two pins here. The leg can go back pretty far and almost kick himself in the back. And you can, again, get pretty good range of motion right there as well. So there's a lot of motion on this figure. I believe this is 22 points of articulation. I can absolutely see that here. Very much similar to the Blackest Night Batman. There is no rotation on the ankle portion here, or the shin, but you can get the foot to go, and there is a boot cut as well, just like the Blackest Night Batman version. So a lot of articulation packed into the figure. That weird hand, I do find that a bit odd. He does have a Black Lantern power ring. Again, focus it right here. Hopefully it comes in the shot. I'll get an up-close shot of it. But again, very similar to the Batman version. It's just a kind of, you can see it there, but not a huge amount of paint. It's styled in it. You can see the sculpt for it, but not a huge amount of detail standing out. Which would give us maybe, could have made a little bit of white deco on it to give it a little bit more white rub to it, to give it to more pop. Because again, it's on a black hand, literally with a black ring. So it kind of gets lost in it, and that's part of the problem I have with this figure. Since it's all black with that silver trim, a lot of the paint just gets lost with the figure. And that's the biggest negative I have with this figure, is it just gets lost because it's not the same as far as the design and deco goes. It just gives it a little bit more paint apps to it, a little bit more dry brush. A customizer would love to use this figure to give more pop to, let's say, the shoulders. And even if you look at the back, I didn't talk about it before, but the back here, you see all that, the detail and the deco, that sculpt. They could easily put some wash in it to really make this thing pop and make it look even better. Now let's focus on the accessories and finish up this figure. And finally, let's talk about accessories. Deathstorm does have some accessories that he comes with. Of course, he does come with a figure stand. We've talked about these before. All Mcfarlane toys do have figure stands. They have one point of attachment, only one peg point you could plug this into. Again, I talk about this in many, many videos. They should have had 2 points of attachment where both feet could be plugged in at the same time. Very much like G.I. Joe figures. You can't do that with these stands, which is unfortunate. Other accessories he does come with is the tech spec card, which is basically art lifted, I think, from the Firestorm tie-in to Blackest Night. You can read about what happened during this time frame. Basically, just to sum it up, it was a situation where Deathstorm was trying to protect the Black Lantern power battery from the Justice League, and it talks about him being Ronnie Raymond and being killed. That was the whole idea, and him coming back as Deathstorm. That's the whole idea of this card. He does have a power battery, and this was, again, lifted from that artwork which I talked about near the middle of the video. He is holding this particular power battery. I gotta ding Mcfarlane Toys for this, because there is no articulation on the handle. This is basically just a rubber handle and just sculpted silver power battery. They could have done better with that. He can in fact hold his power battery in his hand. You just have to pry his hand open and he will hold it with no issues like that, but I kind of ding them on that. They could have done a better job with this power battery. Other companies, let's say Mattel, for example, their power batteries are articulated. This one is not. Again, this is a ding against Mcfarlane Toys. They could have done a better job, but they didn't. They wanted to go the cheap route and give us this rubber power battery as far as the handle goes. I get why I did it to cut costs, but they shouldn't have done that, in my personal opinion. And the other accessories, we do have Atrocitus' head sculpt right here. Great looking head sculpt for Atrocitus, which is the collect and connect piece, which we'll be putting and attaching everything together in video number 5 of this video series. And he has the kind of the shoulder pads that kind of tell you how it plugs in left and right that you plug this into. This is a rubber piece of material. You just plug this in the back of Atrocitus when we get there. Next video series in the video review we're doing for Blackest Night figures is of course going to be Kyle Rayner. Stay tuned for that video series coming out in the next video. I hope you do like this video of Deathstorm from Mcfarlane Toys. Click the like button bottom page. Click that all important subscribe button. When you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, kind of be notified for the latest videos. And of course, last but not least, you can win those over here to watch more of my content. Take care, guys. See you next video. And bye-bye.